Welcome back, folks. It's Monday, November 6th, 2023. Born on this date in 1941, the late Ray Perkins, Alabama and NFL player and coach. Of course, in most of the country, the example that's always made for a tough act to follow is the magician that followed the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. But in the South, it's Ray Perkins following Bear Bryant in Alabama. Now, I know that because I visited outside the South once. It was a confusing time, but I learned about the Beatles and Ed Sullivan. Let's talk about a coming Republican showdown in District 1, the death of a mayor, and daylight saving time. I'm Mike Morgan, and we are down in Alabama. It stands to reason that if Alabama's congressional districts were reworked to the point where a second district is almost certainly to vote Democratic, then you're going to leave one Alabama Republican without a seat on Capitol Hill. Alabama District 2 was redrawn dramatically by federal court order in an effort to give more of the state's black population the representative of their choice. That means it was redrawn so that a Democrat would win. Now, that seat is currently held by Republican Representative Barry Moore of Enterprise. But that doesn't mean Moore becomes a, sit-and duck incumbent, because Moore now lives in the redrawn District 1, which is represented by Jerry Carl. AL.com's John Sharp reports that last week, Moore announced that he'd be running for the District 1 seat, setting up a Republican primary showdown of two currently serving congressmen. Now, it's a big challenge for Moore to come into the district, at least on paper. Carl already represents Baldwin and Mobile counties, which are the most populous parts of the new Alabama 1. State GOP chairman and possible future boxing promoter John Wall called it a clash of the titans. Wall also said he'd push for a debate during the campaign. The First Baptist Church of Phoenix City held Sunday service yesterday and spent time mourning Pastor Bubba Copeland, reports AL.com's Greg Garrison. Copeland was also the mayor of Smith Station. He drew attention in 2019 for representing the area after a tornado killed 23 people in Lee County. A report was posted last week by a website, 1819 News, that said Copeland had an online personality as a transsexual woman whose posts included racy content and photos of himself in women's clothes. Last Wednesday evening, Copeland defended himself in church, telling his congregation he'd been attacked on the internet and he had nothing to be ashamed of, but that he had taken some funny pictures with his wife. Now, on Friday, 1819 News published another story detailing erotic fiction that it claimed was attributed to Copeland or his alter ego. On Friday afternoon, Copeland took his own life, according to the Lee County Sheriff's Office. He was 49 years old and had 3 kids. While U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville has been in the spotlight over his blocking military officer promotions over Justice Department abortion policy, he still wants to see more daylight in the evenings. AL.com's Jeremy Gray reports that Tuberville said this past weekend ought to be the last time we ever fall back. Note here that, like the elusive Alabama lottery, this topic comes up a whole bunch, but hasn't gotten done yet. But, as the senator points out, 17 states, including Alabama, have passed legislation to stop the semi-annual time changes. But the federal government has the ultimate say, according to current law. U.S. Representative Mike Rogers of Alabama is sponsoring a bill in the House of Representatives that would allow states to decide for themselves. And a bipartisan group of lawmakers has introduced legislation to make daylight saving time permanent in much of the U.S. Now, that's an important point to make here, because a lot of people complain about daylight saving time, but then they say they hate the fall back more than the spring forward. To be clear, daylight saving time is what we have in the summertime now, and currently we're on standard time. Thanks for letting me clear that up. I appreciate everybody for listening. We're going to come back here and do this again tomorrow. Until then, come on by and see what we're up to on the World Wide Web at AL.com.